Hello again, this is Zach with CGStatLink. Today's tutorial, we're going to talk about how to manually modify the free graphics packages that we provide for you. We don't have a project editor yet. It's going to be a little bit of time before we have that and some big announcements coming up. We're going to change a little bit of how we handle the internal character generator. So for those of you who are using our current software, until such time as we can get a project editor for you, I'm going to show you how to manually edit those files so that you're not, stranded. Our graphics package is free, though they may be. I'm not living in a fantasy world where I think they're, ESPN quality or anything like that. So they get the job done, but I understand that for those of you who want to modify it for your own school or organization's brand, you want to be able to do that. So that's what this tutorial is about, showing you how to do it and do it quickly and effectively. It's not really rocket science. It can be a little tedious though, so just bear with me and we'll go through it. So what I'm going to do here, I have the baseball softball version open. You can see the internal character generator over here. Right now we have just our default page loaded. I'm going to come over here to internal CG, load project file, and I'm going to navigate to graphics tutorial, baseball.ice. And now we have the multi-page character or multi-page project file loaded. Page 1 is the scorebug TL top left. That's this page right here. I'm just going to type in some information here and add a pitch count. You can see that there. I'm just going to add some info here. Okay. And then let's put someone on second base. Okay, so we've got this. What is happening here is we're looking at the first page in this project file. So I'm going to come over here to where I have the actual project file. It's a .ice file, and really all it is, it's a text file. So if you want to come over to right-click on it and go to Open With. Now I already have this selected notepad. You should be able to just expand this list here and find notepad, double click it. You can always use the selected program to open that kind of file. And it's actually an XML file, but you can edit it in Notepad. So you really don't need to manage anything here or here. This is all we're worried about. You can remove projects or remove pages from the project. You can add pages. So what I'm going to do, I'm not really going to do anything major. I'm just going to kind of rename some stuff. So I'm just going to change this to top left. That's the only change I'm going to make for this. And come over here. I'm going to load the default project again, then load project file. And now you can see it says scorebug top left. So that's really all there is to that part. The description here, you can just put the same information there. And then the path, this is where it can get a little tricky if you're starting to remove pages. You want to keep a numerical number here. So if you were to, let's say you wanted to take out the two from the bottom left options. You just wanted to delete those. Now we have 1, 2, 5, 7, 6, 8, 9. We want to change that. We're going to want to go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then over here, this is where it starts getting a little tricky. Then you have to actually start renaming all of these numbers here. So let's say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to minimize that. Then you actually have to go into the baseball.ice.dir, delete those two directories, and then I have to go in and manually rename all of these. So the directories have to match the file path that's in that ICE file. So baseball-ice.dir slash 007 dot opening title backslash page dot XAML. So that's how you edit the actual project file so that the list that you have here is updated. Okay, so I'm going to load the default project. I'm going to load the project file again. Now you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All of that's changed. And as you select those all still fit. If you were to go in and you were to select like page 5 and it doesn't actually change, it stays on the page that you were originally on, that means there's a typo. It's not going to throw an error or anything. It's just not going to do anything. So that's how you can know if there was a problem there. Go back and recheck and make sure that everything is typed in properly. Okay, so I want to quickly touch base here now on how to edit an actual page. So I'm going to open up this Scorebug TL. In here we have all of the different images that might be part of a default for the page. We're not actually getting the image information here from these specific images, but this is just as part of the pages are designed as templates, and then CGStatLink then fills in the home and visiting teams and the bases and the inning top and bottom innings. Those are all supplied from from here. And then like the team names, that's all supplied from the XML file from StatCrew or from the game settings if you're doing manual control. So we just keep those there. I'm gonna quick tell you about a little program here that I use to edit. It's called XAML. If you go to XAML.com, it's a free open source project. It lets you edit XAML files. XAML files are actually used in software development. We're using these because it's a pretty basic, straightforward way to do stuff. That's how we're creating and generating our page files. So you can download this. The nice thing about it is a XAML file, it's like an XML file, except it's really designed more for graphic user interfaces and things like that. The nice thing about XAML is then you can collapse and expand different elements. You can use Notepad, but you're not going to be able to collapse things and make things kind of easier to manage. Okay, so just real briefly here, we have when you want to go in and edit your own stuff here, you don't want to touch anything with this top canvas line. Leave that how it is. If you mess anything up there, change anything, you could cause problems later down the road. Then you'll notice there's a second canvas element here. And I'm going to quick collapse all this stuff. And then we have a bunch of text blocks. We'll get to all that later. I'm going to collapse this canvas. So you can see how these different elements are all nested within one another. So this canvas is actually, this nested canvas is actually where all of the Scorebug information is. The nice thing about it is, doing it this way is, if you want to, you can create all of your stuff for your Scorebug within that canvas. And then if you want to move the canvas around, I'm going to move this canvas. Let's say I wanted it right in the center of the screen, or top center. I'm going to change this value to like 500. Give it a second, and it's going to move it over. So you've got this little preview window here that's going to render all of that for you. That's a nice little feature of XAML. I'm going to move that back to 100. Okay, so we've got that. The Scorebug as is, there's actually no image that's part of the background. It's all of these different border elements. So I'm going to delete this border. And now you can see that the pitch information has gone away. Now the pitch text fields are still there, just the background isn't. You can't really tell because it's white text on a white background from XAML's canvas, but it's there. So we would have to address that later. I'm going to undo that for now. And then what I'm going to do here, for those of you who are, you have a graphics design program, someone who's created a score bug for you, I'm going to show you how to bring in that score bug as an image. So what I've got here, I've got this image here, baseball scorebug.png. This is just a real basic, very early graphic that we designed when we first started the CGStatLink. The big thing you need to remember about this, if you're using the chroma key background from either dual screen or a smaller window on a single monitor, you can't do stuff like embossing or drop shadows or things like that on the edge. So you really have to have very strictly defined edges on your images, because if you have like an emboss, feathering, or a drop shadow, that's going to render against the green backdrop or whatever color you're using for your chroma key. And then Wirecast or a Blackmagic, they're not going to be able to chroma key that very well, and it's going to look it's going to look bad. So you really have to go with just the straight edges. Don't try to do anything fancy on the borders, but anything inside of that, it's all fair game as long as you're not using a color that's part of the chroma key. If you're using a green chroma key background and you put a big green box here, there's a very good chance if the color values are close enough that that green box within the score bug will be chroma keyed with the along with the rest of the background. Okay, so I've got that. I'm going to add this image in place of the all of the rectangles that I've got. So first thing I'm going to do, just to make this easy on you, I'm going to recommend, I'm going to change this to just scorebug.png. I'm going to cut that. I'm going to come over to our 001 scorebug.tl folder. I'm going to paste it in there. And now if I come back to Kazaml, I'm going to do an open bracket image, and it'll start kind of filling in stuff for you. Source equals, and then you want scorebug.png bracket or close quote slash close bracket. Now it's going to load it in. There's some other things that you can do if you want to resize it. You can do like width equals 200, height equals 150, whatever. And there are certain values that you can have in there to stretch elements, that if you want it to stretch out or not, or you want to stretch a certain way. I'm not going to get into all of that. You can do a Google search, XAML image source, and you'll be able to find a whole bunch of stuff on all of that. So for now, I'm actually just going to take out the height and width and just let it use those image defaults. You'll notice now that that image is behind these here. So that's because in XAML files, things are layered from top element down. It's just the exact opposite. Whatever element is listed first is actually at the very bottom layer of all of the elements that you have there. So I'm going to delete the borders, and I'm just going to delete all of these borders, to tell you the truth, because we don't need those. Okay. I'm not going to go in and edit every single one of these. I'm just going to kind of give you the basic idea here of how to do it, and then you can go from there. Now, there are two types of elements that we use in our pages, image sources and text blocks. So we already talked about this image source up here. I want to talk to you about the text blocks here. Other images that we use are for like what team is batting, the base images, if there's a player on the base or not, things like that. So before I touch on those too much, I want to come over to this file here. This is the XML output that is part of mostly for like live text or any other external character generator that reads XML files. These are all of the different elements that we output. So from the visiting name, um, errors, hits, left on base, home records, the current pitcher, the current number of pitches, how many outs there are, et cetera, et cetera. And then we have, these are all text values. And then down here we have all of the image values, which is nothing more than an image path. And those image paths are supplied from here, with the exception of the team logos, which are supplied from here. So we've got that. These are all of the different, all of the elements that you can use um, in um, in the internal character generator and external character generators. So if you ever have a question, this is also in the documentation appendix for all of our products. So that user manual that you can find right here, click that, opens a PDF. There is actually useful information there. So take a look for this, just open it, go down to the very last page, might be the second to last page. Because I think we have a change log there as well as far as changes to the software. But that's where you're going to find it. Now, in the internal character generator for the files that we have, page files, we designate that it's a dynamic value by putting a percentage at the beginning and the end. So that's why you see those percentages there. What this tells us then, when CGStatLink loads the page, it sees these percentages and says, oh, don't actually put this information there, put in whatever dynamic value is assigned to that key and put that in there. So that's how that works. And this way here you can also then change all, the fonts, the color, bold, things like that. You can also change with the canvas left and canvas top. You can change the positioning of it. Whoops, that's pretty far. So you can move it around within this image because it's all part of this one bug canvas. And again, if I were to change this, if I were to make that 300, that's going to move everything at once. Whereas if you didn't use this nested canvas, anytime you want to say, if you were to check this in the CGStatLink internal character generator, and you were to decide, it really needs to go over like 20 pixels. It's much easier to do it with just this one nested canvas rather than, going in and changing all of these, by 20 pixels to the left. That can get very tedious. Okay, so we've got that. That's how you change the text blocks. And then we have some other images down here. With the images, it's a little bit different than just putting in, the dynamic value for the source. Here you can put in the source that you want to display for editing purposes. So in this case, for all of these, let's take a look at the bases. The source is base on.png. You can see all three of those bases right here. And then we add this tag element, and that's where the dynamic value comes in. Then in our internal character generator, what happens is we say, this is the source. Oh, but wait, there's a tag. It's a dynamic value. That's what the actual image source is going to be. So make sure you have that tag in there as you start adding stuff. All right, so the other thing I want to do here is I want to show you how to, if you want to add images for ball count, specifically outs. We also support image paths for ball strikes and outs. I'm going to add it just for outs for now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come over to our list of our XML outputs. So you can see here out one image and out two image. those are the two we have there, and then we have strikes and balls. I'm just going to do the outs for now. So what I'm going to do, just to make this really easy, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to make the default image circle white.png, and I'm getting that from our scorebug 001.scorebug.tl folder. We have a whole bunch of different images here. And again, these just serve as defaults. The actual value is getting filled in from the image paths values from CGStatLink's image path settings. So the source is circlewhite.png. Then I'm going to change this to out one image. Let me just double check that. Out one image, that's correct. You can see here now you have the circle kind of overlaid over the diamond from the base. So I'm just going to move this over, let's say, to 450 pixels to the left. I'm just going to throw it there. Obviously not where we want to put it for the real deal, but we're just using this for show. Oops. I'm going to paste that, change this one to out to image, and then I'm going to make this, I'm going to move this over 500 pixels to the left. All right, I'm going to save that. You can do Control S or come up to File and Save. One thing about XAML is, it is open source. It's free. There are some bugs in it. That's just kind of the nature of stuff. If you were to just close this file, it's not going to save, at least the current version of it. So and it's not going to prompt you to save it. So you have to make sure to do File Save or Control S. I'm going to minimize that. Then we actually have to go off that page and then go back to the page to launch it. CGStatLink isn't going to auto detect that there's been a change to the file and update it. All right, so here we've got it. We've got the two images there. Now if I come over here and click outs and advance that to 1, now that's changed to red. And there we go. So that's how you do that. And again, we have, whoops, where am I trying to go here? Back to XAML. So that's how you add the images for the ball count. And like I said, you can do that for balls, strikes, and outs. And then you can move these all around. It can get a little tedious. That's probably the biggest thing, is just the the trial and error, kind of moving stuff around, messing around with the width and height of images, the fonts, font weights and font sizes, making sure everything fits. It'll take some time. Once you have it set though, you can save a backup of it someplace, and then you can move it around wherever you want. And if you if you decide that you want it in the bottom corner, then you can mess around with the canvas top of this nested canvas. For line scores and things like that, you can get pretty creative. If you wanted to, you could also do like a secondary nested canvas. Canvas left. Well, let's just do this. I'm just going to copy all of that. Going to paste it. So now we have two versions. And then if I go from the top, I want that to be 300 from the top. Now we have two versions. Now if I start making changes to this one, it's not going to affect any of the values up here in this first one. But I mean, you can really get creative with it. You could effectively have a page that has all of the values in it if you want, and then you can nest them and move them around to different places. So I think in our line scores graphic, we actually did some stuff with nested canvases just to make it easier for all the different, because with 9 innings, you've got the inning numbers, you've got the visiting innings, the home innings, left on base, runs, hits, errors, all of that. There's something like 40 different values, and so I think we use nested canvases there. You can take a look at those pages individually and kind of see how we did it. Again, not rocket science. It can just get a little tedious at times. So have fun with it, and we'd certainly like to see what you come up with. Let us know if you decide to venture out on this on your own and customize your own. We'd like to show a screenshot. If you can send us one, we'll put it up on our website and kind of show what the community of users is doing to maximize this the feature set that we have here. And again, we'll have some big announcements coming up here as far as what's going to be happening with our project editor. And so stay tuned for that. And until next time, I'm Zach with CGStatLink, and keep on web streaming.